Hello everyone and welcome back to the Amped YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be taking you through the solution to the Amped Gym Challenge 3, as well as taking a look at a few learning points that we can take away from this challenge. This challenge is quite an interesting challenge in the fact that there's a lot of different connecting points to coming to a solution. Before I go through the solution, let's just take a look and remind ourselves about this challenge. So the background of this challenge is that there's a protest that's going on, and the protesters were met by police who were using non-lethal or less lethal weapons to ensure that the protest didn't get out of hand. As a video analyst then, you've been tasked to identify how many different police officers fired their weapons and how many shots were fired in total. And using some of the information from the video, whether that was PTS information, timestamp information, or video duration, to determine at what time and how many shots were fired. Before we get started then, I'm just going to play the video through once with audio so you can see what's happening. So from the initial video, we can identify two things. It looks like there's only two officers with weapons that can fire, and the rest look like they're holding balance. So we need to establish which officer is holding a weapon, identify them by giving them a name, identify the weapon systems, and then determine which one is being fired, if only one or if both. I'm going to start off just by saying that I'm not going to walk you through every step I took doing this video. I've created the project already, but I'll show you what I've done rather than how I've done it. But if you do have any questions on how I've done any of this, then feel free to reach out. So firstly, I wanted to focus on the officer and weapon identification. There's a couple of ways you could do this. You could use still images from the video and label them that way, or you could do like I did and create a video using annotations to label the officers as they come into view. Here's a good view where you can see most of the officers, and as I said before, there's only two with actual weapons that can fire, and I labeled them already. So if I go to the video, you can see I've got Officer A here with weapon A, and this looks like it's a beanbag sort of launcher. Then we've got Officer B here, and we can clearly see he's just got a balance, so not really relevant for the investigation we're doing. And then I've labeled the individual with the shotgun rubber bullet weapon as Officer C and labeled this as weapon B. And this will just play through the video. You can see I've used freeze frame and annotation to do these labeling. The video continues to play, and as a new officer appears, they end up being labeled. I didn't spend the time to label all the other officers, but I checked that none of them had weapon systems. But you can see here I would freeze frame again, label the rest of them D, E, F, G, H, and we've got a couple in the background further on as well. So that's one way of labeling the police officers. Also, you could just take still images and name the images. So here you can see we've got Officer C and weapon B again, and Officer A, weapon A. So I want to start off by playing the full video again. And I want you to listen to the sound of the gunshots and take note of the officers. So from them first 4 shots, you might notice it or you might not. The very first shot and the third and fourth all sound the same. The second shot sounds very different. Now, to be honest with you, when I first did this video, I got confused in thinking that all the shots were coming from Officer C, Weapon B. But actually, that second shot we hear comes from Officer A, Weapon A. And I'll show you how I highlight all this. But again, that first shot happens here, and then the second shot just happens right here. From this, I wanted to focus on a couple of things to show that the weapons were being fired. So what I did, I started off with Officer C, Weapon B, and I've added the original time and the original frames. If I play this video, you might notice something happen. As he's firing this shot, the cartridge is dispensed from the weapon system, and you can see it just here. So I then created a slowed down video of this, and you can see here I've added some text and some annotations to it, and the text states that in this clip that occurred between this time and this time of the original video, we can see the cartridge dispensed from the weapon identified as Weapon B held by Officer C, straight after we hear the sound of a gunshot. Using this information, we can establish that this shot and all previous and following shots heard in this file come from Officer C and Weapon B, except for one shot that we identified coming from Officer A, Weapon A. So I'm going to play this new video for you. So I've got it annotated and slowed down, just so that people can read this text. And then we go into the magnifying just so that we can track that cartridge being dispensed from that rifle. So that's shots 1 through to 6 except 2. And then we've got the shot that's fired by Officer A, Weapon A. Now we don't actually see the shot being fired. So if I was standing up in court being questioned on this file, I would say that the likelihood is that it's coming from Officer A, Weapon A, but I can't determine that 100%. But what we can determine for fact is that the audio of the shot is different, that at the time of the shot, Officer A is holding the weapon system in a firing position, and after the shot, we can see Officer A reload his weapon system. So I've slowed the video down again, and you'll see here I've magnified it, Officer A, where we see him reload the weapon system. So you can see he pulls out a cartridge, drops it to the floor, and puts a new cartridge in. So from that evidence alone, we can surmise that he fired a shot at some point because he's having to reload. And with the other information that we've provided, it would be likely that that shot was the shot that happened at the second shot we hear. Okay, so the final step now then is to determine how many shots were fired in total, which officers fired which shots, and at what times those shots occurred. So for this again, I use Annotate just to put a tracker on how many shots were fired. So I'll play the video for you. Okay, so in total there were 6 shots fired, and we now know that one of those shots were fired by Officer A, Weapon A, which was the second shot, and the other 5 shots were fired by Officer C holding Weapon B. There's more we could do with Annotate and these videos. You could spend days on this to ensure that every shot is shown, that we could magnify his hand for every single shot. We could try get footage of every single cartridge that's dispensed. I've shown you a quick snippet of how we can do that in this video, but I just wanted to make you aware that you can go that further step with this and track every single shot. If this was a real case, I would do that. I would spend a lot more time on this, taking into consideration every single shot, showing the reloading and where hands were placed during those shots fired. The final bit I just want to show you then is that the times of the shots fired. So again, there's different ways that you can track the time of the shots. You could use the frames, so you could label each shot by the frame. You could use the PTS data from the file. In this case, I just used the duration from the original clip and just added when that shot was fired. So you can see I've got shot 1 to 6 here, and I've just put down the time at which the shots occurred. Now, this information I would put into my own investigator notes, or I could bookmark each time the shot happens and add this information to the bookmark so that that would appear in my 5 report. Okay, so I just want to talk about mistakes that can happen during an investigation like this and learning points from it. So the first one then is a mistake that I made myself when I first looked at this video, and that was assuming that all the shots were fired by the same officer. As we later identified, one of the shots came from Officer A, Weapon A. Another thing we need to be careful with is not assuming too much. It would be easy, and I oversimplified this solution and the videos as well, in saying that the other 5 shots all came from Officer C. But there is potential that that might not have been the case. And the potential for that is if we don't actually see those shots fired in the video. So though we can assume those shots are coming from him, the fire of the shots sound the same, and the rest of it like that, we need to ensure that we're not assuming and actually getting the video evidence of it. And that leads me to my next point, and I think the main point that we can take away from this video is that presentation of evidence is extremely powerful. If I just presented this video as it was originally to the court, it would be very hard to determine anything at all going on. It would be hard to see those rounds being dispensed. It would be hard to see Officer A reloading his rifle. And to keep track of all the shots as well. So by using the annotate filter and the freeze frame filter and other presentation tools, we can really enhance the way that we show this evidence off. And it's a very powerful tool to get used to doing. I've had cases in the past as well where creating the evidence and presenting it in a certain way really has a lot of impact on the case. One final thing I want to mention, which I didn't mention during the solution, is that if we're looking at the timing of the shots, it's imperative that we ensure that the video and the audio are synced perfectly. Now, with video evidence that comes from CCTV, it's often that the audio isn't synced correctly to the video. So you can use moments in time where you can see something happening and the sound that goes with it to make sure the audio is synced. In this case, in this video, the audio is synced, so we don't need to worry about it too much. But I didn't go through the process of how you check that. I hope you enjoyed this challenge in this video. If you do have any questions about anything that I covered, make sure to reach out to us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and until next time, take care.